welcome back to another episode of Parenting Shrink Wrapped. We're in for a good one today. Melissa and I are here with Katharine Petzold, who is a licensed clinical social worker with 9 years of experience specializing in relationship and couples therapy. And we're going to talk today about the importance of the couples relationship in the well-being of kids. So that's why Katharine is here. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what she's up to. But before I do, I just want to brace you for the fact that she's very funny. And and we've already been laughing before we hit recording. And I don't think we're going to get through this without some of her irreverence coming through, which I imagine is like one of the joys of working with you, Katharine. I think when you're probably working with couples that they like the fact that you like take your work, but not yourself too seriously. And I think that we're going to find that. And I'm also just going to put a plug right now for you to stay tuned till the very end of this episode, because we are going to outro with the most wonderful song that Katharine wrote and performed on, in our intro, we talk about the joys and messiness and the absurdities of raising kids. And this song encapsulates all of it. It's called Parenthood. Katharine's voice is wonderful, but the lyrics are phenomenal. My favorite line is, "At this point, I've showered 10 times in my own sweat." And she worked that into a song about parenthood, which seems apropos. Okay. So here's who we're talking to today. Katharine Petzold is a licensed clinical social worker, as I said, and she is a certified relational life therapist and facilitator of a program called Relationship Boot Camp, where she leads workshops that build connection, accountability, and emotional intimacy for individuals, couples, and for the mental health professionals who work with couples. She is grounded in neurobiology, and as I said, by night she's a singer-songwriter. But I don't think she could have written the number that you're going to hear at the end of this if she weren't also the mother of 3 little ones. She's got twins age 8 and another age 9, so her life is plenty busy. Katharine Petzold, welcome to Parenting Shrink Wrapped.
Thank you for having me.
We are so...
And way to set the bar high. Now I don't know how I'm going to reach it.
Yeah, you better be funny. No, just...
Yeah, I know. I feel a lot of pressure.
Katharine, can you tell us a little bit more about how you ended up in this space? I mean, there's a lot of licensed clinical social workers out there that do not work specifically in the relational life therapy space and facilitate, workshops and boot camps. So how did you end up doing this?
Well, I'm married. I think it's, a little known secret that us therapists pursue areas that interest us because we're curious about them and we're trying to figure them out. And so, as I say to my clients, like, I don't ask you to do anything that I haven't already done myself, that I haven't already asked of myself. And so in the effort to continue to improve intimacy and my own relationship, I got really interested in what is relationality and what can we expect? What, we have pop culture that kind of is like, no sacrifices. It's just all love and yay. And then, other stories and your own lived experience. And I was someone who got married later in life. And, so I was just really curious about relationships and about how I show up in relationships and what I bring to the table that gets in the way of me getting what I want out of the relationship and me bringing my partner and I closer rather than like, the oxymoron of angry pursuit. Like, why won't you come over here and talk with me?
Yeah. Tell me you love me, damn it. Right?
Yeah. I want to connect. So my own,
and I feel like we can all identify with that. Like,
yeah.
Anybody who is in a long-term relationship knows that there are these like infinity cycle patterns that happen where like one of you does one thing, which makes the other one do another thing, which makes you feel this way. And then the other one feels that. And like the infinity cycle keeps triggering this over and over again, whether it's about like, my husband and I noticed this one time when he was pulling broccoli that we had just roasted out of the oven, and like something, I don't know, like our cat skittered by or something, but like it startled him, and suddenly broccoli popped like popcorn off of the pan all over the floor, and like there was cursing and yelling about broccoli, and
Yeah.
but it like triggered a thing between the two of us, because like he was upset about broccoli, but then I like caught his upset, and then he was like ticked at me for overreacting to his upsetness about broccoli, but then there was like a cloud over his head. And do you know what, like that's an
Yeah.
energy cycle that was playing out in the Straub household, triggered by spilled broccoli. And I
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the broccoli, Sam.
Well, right, exactly. And I think also what happened was I started to work with couples just by default. I was working at an outpatient mental health clinic where they throw everybody at you. And I was working with couples, and I also believe that so much change is possible within a relationship dynamic. As an individual therapist, I tend to be like hook, line, and sinker. I was hook, line, and sinker with my individuals, and I'd be like, "Your family sounds horrible." And then I live in a small town, so I'd see them outside, and they'd be like, they looked like perfectly kind, nice people. They weren't wearing their witch's hat, and they didn't have their pitchfork, and so I was just like, "Oh my gosh." Whereas in relationship, you're kind of getting, oh, this is your part of it. This is what you're bringing to it that I'm not going to maybe see as clearly as I'm going to see in the individual work. And so it's within that petri dish that I think we as humans have the most opportunity to change, because as we know, our brains are conserving energy, and they only change when they have to, when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of changing. And I think that when we're alone, that pain of staying the same isn't so bad. But when we are with someone, the pain of staying the same is compelling enough that we change, and we deal with parts of ourselves that we might not have even known were there. And so, Sam, when you're talking about that broccoli thing, it's like in relational life therapy, which is the model I practice, there is a 3-part person model, and it's wounded child, adaptive child, and wise adult. And so in that moment, I would say some adaptation of yours was activated, and that part came in, and then people are like, why are you overreacting about the broccoli? And of course, as Dr. Wellner said, do you want to be called Dr. Wellner or Melissa? How would you like?
Oh, whatever.
Okay.
I'm Melissa on the podcast.
Okay. Right. And as you know, it's not the, as you both know, that's not, of course, about the broccoli.
No, I mean, like when Sam was saying that, and like what you just said, Catherine, like in my head, that to me is the wounded child, because you got reprimanded because of spilled milk, like, or something as a kid, like you dropped something or you made a mess unintentionally. And so immediately as a psychiatrist, I'm going, oh, that's the wounded child coming out, because you're reliving getting in trouble or something for making a mess. And, Sam's husband accidentally spilled the broccoli everywhere, so there goes part of dinner. But
who knows? But here's what the thing that I was, Catherine, you were talking about. We make change when it's in service of others, like when it's like when and the reason we wanted to have this conversation on a parenting podcast is because one of the things that we know, all three of us know from our various vantage points, is when the adult relationship in a family, or relationships, like if you've got step families or blended families, which was 2 episodes ago, the kids do better. They do better when there's harmony at the adult level, when there's shared power at the adult level, when they sense that their parents have each other's back, and that they're happy in the relationship.
Well, they get thrown into the petri dish, right? Like Catherine's talking about the petri dish, like they just get launched into it, and
yeah.
So
I brought that up because we were talking about like the wounded child, adaptive child, and wise parent, and we all have all the 3 of those parts. But like kids become the wounded or adapted kid because of like crap going on in their household, right? Can you talk a little bit about what those 3 terms mean?
Yeah, beautiful. And so the wounded child is our earliest, most fragile self. It's usually ages 0 to 5. And this model, this is Pia Melody. I want to credit Pia Melody and Terry Real with this. But it's the part of us that was dependent and vulnerable. And so we needed our caregivers to show up for us. And here's the thing about when we're growing up is that it is a biological imperative that we attach to our caregivers because the alternative is death. And there was a horrible study at some point where it's not only food and shelter, it's also some sort of nurturing. And the study that was horrible was that there was an orphanage and the kids were fed and sheltered, but not picked up, and some of them died. And so nurturing is also a piece of that biological imperative. And so given that we have to attach to our caregivers, which are flawed human beings, we all are, when we attach, the way that we do it so that we can attach to someone who, say, feels bad to attach to in certain moments is we make it our fault. And so that wounded child comes up with strategies and adaptations to survive. Like maybe if I'm do well in school, that seems to get a good reaction. If I am quieter, if I'm this, right? And we make all of these beliefs that in some cases are just a kid making up a belief in a system that's not even based on what's actually happening in the situation. Like when I was pregnant and someone asked me if I swallowed a baby. A kid asked me if I swallowed a baby, right? Because there's a baby in my tummy. Makes sense. I get it, right? So the logic of a kid also kind of dealing with those situations. And the adaptive child part is the part that's formed to shield and protect the wounded part. So, and it was brilliant at keeping us safe back then. So I call my adaptive child the motherfucker in charge because there was some piece of wounded that I learned around I'm not going to get enough. And so my adaptation was like, yes, I am. And so when my motherfucker in charge comes out, she gets me whatever it is that she thinks that I need in that moment. And that adaptive child's job, the only job, is to protect me. And it's not designed to sustain intimacy. It's not designed to connect with my partner. It doesn't care about the relationship, in fact, because maybe in that moment, my partner is the threat. Like in that moment, my partner dropped the broccoli and we are screwed. And I have got to do something to make this. Like Sam's like, I wish I never told that story.
Do not let your husband listen to this episode.
We talk about the broccoli story all the time. It is like emblematic of like.
Well, I will tell my example, and it's a parenting and marriage example. And so so an example of how fast the adaptive child can get activated. So my husband and I were taking our kids out for ice cream, and they had a free kids cone coupon, and the kids asked me if they could have gummy bears on their ice cream. And I said no, because I am a rule follower and it's a free kids cone and it doesn't say anything about toppings. And then, as kids do, they asked my husband, who is different than me, and said yes. He didn't know, of course, that they had already asked me. So we're standing there and I hear him ordering the ice cream with gummy bears on top. Oh, no. And whoosh, right? Instantly, I'm like my wounded child that fears scarcity and fears like not enough, and is suddenly thinking now, oh my gosh, you're ordering gummy bears. Our financial future is at stake. We're taking advantage of the shop owner. Our kids are going to grow up entitled. Why can't a cone be enough? Like all this stuff in a quarter to an eighth of a second. And then my adaptive child comes in and goes, don't worry, I'll protect you. And so then so I can tolerate that flood into my wounded child for like 10 seconds. And my adaptive child, the motherfucker in charge, comes in and she's ready to fight with my husband.
Over ordering the gummy bears.
Yes. To steamroll him and to tell him, like, we're going to end up destitute with ungrateful kids who think they can abuse a free cone coupon by passing on toppings. And so, honey, what are you doing? Like, no, you may not order those gummy bears, which of course goes over with him.
Like a lead
Not great.
balloon. Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the ice cream shop, and all of a sudden I'm totally activated. My voice is raised, and I'm like about to yell about the gummy bears.
And your husband is caught completely off guard, probably bewildered, and is going,
no idea.
What the heck just happened?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so through this work on myself, I can notice what's happening here. Oh my gosh. And then remind myself that we can afford gummy bears. And this isn't a crisis. And we're going to be okay. And even if, say, this is something that I do want to talk about at some point with my husband around, like, I'm concerned about our expenditure on gummy bears or whatever the thing is, that's something I can address in a moment where I'm not in like self-protection, where I'm have some flexibility, where there's some nuance, where a gummy bear is different than like, you know, buying a car or whatever the thing is. And so then when I bring it up with him, I'm going to have much more success, right? Because I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be saying from a grounded place. Whereas if I start yelling in the ice cream shop, now his adaptive child, his wounded child is activated. Like I'm being scolded by as an adult in this ice cream shop. Understandably, he wouldn't like that. And then whoosh, his adaptation is going to come up and he's going to do whatever his flavor of adaptation is. And then off we go. And then our children are like, this is what relationship looks like.
Great. We fight over gummy bears.
This is my template. Be scared of buying gummy bears, gold, and then feel like embarrassed or whatever the thing is. So it's not only that they're in that crucible with us, but they are learning that this is how you handle things.
Yep.
And so the more we can be aware of our wound and tend to it, and then our adaptation and limit it. So it's like the broccoli falls off and we say like, oh man, yeah, that's hard for me. But I'm okay. And now I don't have to like, whatever. Sam, I don't know what your flavor is. Mine is loud.
Yeah. Well, my husband is to like yell at himself, like, oh, I'm such an idiot. He yells at himself like in a way that makes me tense because like he's not yelling at anyone else, but like I catch his tension and I'm like, we don't need to do this in the kitchen. We don't need to, like, you're being too harsh on yourself and I feel harsh, right? Like, and then I'm like, calm down. This is not enough. And then he's like, don't tell me to calm down. I can say, that's how it happens.
And you're off and running. It's just, there you go. And it's like, well, what is the fight about? The broccoli. And both of you are like, the next day I could look and be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that I freaked out about gummy bears. Like the next day I could tell it and it's a funny story. The day it's happening,
it's not funny.
I'm laughing.
Right. Nobody was laughing at the broccoli either.
It doesn't feel funny in the moment because you're not in the right headspace. Yeah. You're not showing up as like the wise adult in that moment. Right.
Yeah. So I love those terms because like we all have those. Like we can all think of ways that we had to be in our growing up house or a growing up situation that we now inadvertently take into our present relationships and screw up the moment, right? Like that's the adoptive child. Like it worked then and we needed it, but now it is just, you're messing up in the moment. And so the wise adult is when you are like regulated and have your act together. Is that generally what it is?
Yeah. So my move there is the adaptive child is like, I'll protect you. I'll protect you by doing something that's not actually going to protect you. Yeah. It's not actually going to help anything.
But it did when you were younger.
But it did when I was younger. Yeah. That's right. It protected me from a perceived threat. And now I am reacting to this issue as though I am under threat again when the threat is not the level of threat that I'm feeling, that I'm experiencing. And so the move for me is to then take a breath. If my adaptive child, if I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't limit the behavior of my adaptive child right now, I'm going to like take a break. I'm going to walk out and let him take care of the ice cream stuff. Or I'm going to say like, whoa, yeah, yeah, I'm so worried I'm not going to get enough. I'm going to be really kind to myself. And I'm going to say thank you so much to my little adaptation. I love her. She's just this feisty little girl who's just going to like fight for it. And she's gotten me really far in life. Like I'm really grateful to her. I'm really and no harshness to any of it. Not like, "Oh my gosh, why are you overreacting? You're such an idiot." Like, "Oh my gosh, and by the way, you just taught your kids something." And I want to just say this off the bat as a mom, like I have no interest in shame or mom guilt or anything like you have to be in your wise adult 100% of the time and
No,
perfect or you're
we
screwing
can't
up your
None
children.
of us
I
are.
believe that. And so I just want to make sure that that caveat is thrown out there. So I'll say, "Oh my gosh, hi, thank you so much. I see you. I want to acknowledge you. I appreciate you. And that's not going to be helpful right now. I can handle this. My wise adult, I can take the hit. You stand behind me. I've got this.
Mhm.
I'll hold this. I can hold the gummy bears. I can handle the gummy bears. You get to go play. Go do whatever." And the thing is that we're not saying like never do I want to use this kind of motherfucker in charge energy, because she has really helped me in my life. But I'd like to have a choice
Right.
and be able to kind of activate her in situations where it might be appropriate or where I decide that I want to, rather than just it being automatic and not having any awareness of what that is. And to me, the delineation between wounded and adaptive is really helpful because we want to respond to each of those parts differently. And the wound is like love it up, and the adaptive is the behavior, and limit it while loving it also and treating it gently.
Uh-huh.
So, Catherine, obviously, none of us are able to show up as wise adults to our kids
No.
24/7. I'm thinking this morning I didn't show up necessarily in the best way either, trying to get my kids out the door to school.
Yes,
Um,
the club.
but, um, you know, how then does this translate into how we can better show up when we show up as wise adults to the impact it has on our kids long term?
Yeah, so I think so just to kind of like give some context, the best estimates of how much time like the most grounded people can be in their wise adults is like 50%.
Oh, okay.
So let's just normalize that the expectation is not that you are there all the time. But here's the wonderful thing about relationships with our children, with our spouse, with others. So Ed Tronick, who did the still baby face experiment, which people can look up if they're interested, has this book called The Power of Discord. And as it turns out, we don't need to be attuned that much. In fact, we can be misattuned 70% of the time,
Wow.
as long as we repair
Mm-hmm.
and attune 30% of the time. And we think about it with our partners, right? Like that's kind of the dream. The dream is my partner's always available to me. And when I want to connect, he wants to connect and all of that. And of course, I have chosen a quieter partner, which is funny. And and so he doesn't want to talk as much as I want to talk. And so my wise adult can be like, yeah, that's a bummer. Like there's a cost of admission to every marriage. That's one of mine. And he's paying his. And I can handle that. My adaptive child goes, "Oh my gosh, he doesn't want to connect right now. He never wants to connect. I'm always going to be alone. I'm never going to have what I need in this relationship." Instead of being able to handle micro disappointment, which is a part of every healthy relationship. And so back to the repair, or the perpetual relational cycle is harmony, disharmony, repair, deeper harmony. That's the healthy cycle.
Mm-hmm.
What happens oftentimes in relationships is there's harmony, disharmony. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, depending on, what your flavor of adaptation is. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's ignore it. Let's make it stop, etc. And then we go around the circle, skip the repair part, and then are in dishonest harmony because it's kind of like abated. There's been some time and I'm not actively angry at you or actively hurt. And then accumulation and, resentment that kills marriages and contempt that kills marriages happens over time. And so
Parent-child relationship too. I was just on a coaching call with a client. I was like, you are not finishing problems with your child.
yeah.
Like your kid does something, you're upset, they're upset, and they you hash out, you all put all, you kind of vomit up all your upset all over the table, and
Yeah.
then you go to sleep and you wake up and you pretend that there isn't vomit on the table, like, and you
Yeah.
place
Oh.
that over top of it and eat there anyway until you don't notice
Oh.
it just goes away, and nobody revisits and finishes the problem, which
And
I love the cycle, like
you
goes
need to repair. The
in harmony
art
with
of repair is huge.
so
Yeah.
the term dishonest harmony is one I'm going to take with me. That makes, like, I have seen that so many times. I call it not finishing the problem, but like with the result
Yeah.
of dishonest harmony, and I that makes such good sense to
Well, I
me.
think as parents, we do that with our kids, right? Like, I mean, Sam, you saw it this morning on a coaching call. I mean, you know, once we were finally in the car this morning and, I had raised my voice to get the kids out the door. As I was driving, I apologized. I was like, I'm sorry for yelling, but we need to be able to get to school on time.
Right. So you made a repair.
And I repaired and I owned it, right? Like,
Well, and I think that's so beautiful. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because that repair that I'm talking about is relational. And what we're talking about is relationality. And so teaching our kids relationality and being with them in a relational way. And that repair, someone just told me a quote by Einstein that it's like 95% talking about the problem, 5% talking about the solution. So people want to jump to the solution really fast. And a lot of the times it's just, so in that gummy bear example, had I lost it in the ice cream shop, which just to be clear, I have at times lost it in the proverbial ice cream shop, then I would say to my kids, you know what? I am really sorry. I don't like the way that I behaved. What was that like for you?
Mm.
What did you experience? Do you have any thoughts about it? Lots of telling stories to the kids, like, oh, sometimes I'm so angry and I just want to yell. And then I do such and such. So it's like normalizing all the urges that we all have, and normalizing all the mistakes that we all make, and then normalizing forgiving ourselves for making those mistakes. So I mean, not sorry. I yelled at you. I forgive myself. Maybe not in the same sentence, but
That's not the repair we're talking about here.
right. But maybe
right.
it's sorry I yelled. Sorry I yelled. I really don't like that. You don't deserve to be yelled at. I'm gonna work on that. That's something I'm thinking about. Something I'm gonna work on. And I'm not gonna have that conversation that same moment. I'm gonna say, but you also need to do such and such.
Right.
Like, I'm good. Those are going to be separated. So then the next conversation I have might be the conversation around, like, it's really hard for you to, one of my daughters, it's really hard to get up in the morning. She just gets up and she's ready to hit people. Like, and frankly, I relate. I think getting up is the worst. And early. This conversation has just turned to depression. I just mean early. So I might say to her, like, getting up is really hard. Tell me about that. Tell me about all the hard things. Like, it's cold when you step out of the bed, or there's too much noise, or the light is bright, or, I know for me, I like to get into my cozy bathrobe and my slippers and have a cup of tea before I do other stuff. So tell me about what happens for you. So that's also borrowing from Dr. Ross Greene, from Dr. Becky Kennedy. So kind of borrowing from all those.
And if you have a teenager who you can't say, like, tell me, like when you go to wake your teenager up and it's like time for school, and they don't just get up cranky, they actually like wake up and curse at you. That's happened in my household, because like in the
They're
States,
aggressive. They're just
half conscious, like literally like, get the F out of here, right? Like, that's happened.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to take that personally in the morning,
Totally.
right? And you can't say, what was that like for you when I woke you up? And because you're just going to like repeat the situation. My suggestion in that case would be to say, like, I didn't love how we greeted each other this morning. Like, however you want to say it. I use a reference. I use humor. Are you okay now? Like to revisit it in some way, and not in a snarky way, but like, or like, did something happen that made getting up harder than usual this morning? You can say it to your teenager, but you might not be able to go into as much depth because they're gonna be like, I don't want to talk to you about my cozy slippers. Like, that's stupid, mom. Like, they're you know, like they're gonna get cynical about it, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do this same thing. You just need to do it in a little bit more teen oriented, with teen oriented consciousness around it, I guess.
Yeah, great.
So I want to hit on one last point, because something that Katharine put in her form, I think, is super important. And she wrote, parenting, all joy, no fun. And I would love for you to kind of elaborate on that take, now that our listeners and our audience kind of have a better feel for you, what you meant by that.
Well, I am referencing a book called All Joy, No Fun.
Okay.
I don't remember the author. It might be Jessica Gross, but I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But I just think that is such a perfect way of describing parenting, that there's such, and this is also, it kind of reminds me of relational joy, that it's not necessarily the fun thing, but it's deeply meaningful and deeply joyful. And let's just be real, not deeply joy. I'm not talking about when you wake up your child and they yell at you, which also is already happening in our house. It's more and it's exhausting work.
Yes.
And effort, and I don't know, I'm still trying to organize my life so it doesn't quite feel so tiring. I think that might be ongoing.
Aren't we
new
all?
Marie Kondo is like my addiction is watching other people organize their lives. So yeah, just pretty much what it says. It's just like, it's deep relational joy, and there's place for pleasure, and pleasure is important. Pleasure is important as a parent. Pleasure is important in all your relationships. And there's also this deep relational joy that is not pleasure based. It's not as immediate as that.
I love that. And if you grew up in a household where you didn't see that, or you didn't see it modeled, like, it's sometimes, I think, and kids think this too when they get into their first relationships, that that when the fun goes away, or when the fun gets harder to come by, which is usually like 4 to 6 months after a relationship starts, that there's something wrong with the relationship, or that that's
after the honeymoon phase.
Yeah,
after the honeymoon phase is over.
Yeah.
What happens?
I have loved this conversation, and you've done such a nice job, Katharine, of like weaving in the importance of the connection at the parent level with the impact that has for us as children, like, like when we were kids, and then it has on our children while we're in a relationship. This is a never-ending story, right?
So, Katharine, can't thank you enough for joining us today on Parenting Shrink Wrap, for all the wisdom that you've shared with us, and your humor. Thank you for the laughs this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Parenting Shrink Wrap. We love you. We love your kids. Thank you for raising the next generation of world changers. And please tune in at the very end of this. We are super excited for you to hear the song Parenthood, that is written and performed by Katharine.
And it hasn't yet been released, so this is its world
debut
premiere.
too.
Yes.
Even better.
Kung just go snuggle by your side. 'Cause when you go, I miss you. Then I remember this morning, you threw your breakfast on the floor and laughed in my face. Stop, leave your diaper on. Leave it on. Too late, it's on the floor and they moved right along. How many times are they gonna be wet? Today I've showered 10 times in my own sweat. And I wanna be the baby. Won't someone feed and bathe me? I promise I won't make the sound. If you just let me lie down without pulling my hair. Never knew how I'd perfect the mom-dad stare. You are not the boss of me. Actually, yes, you are. Completely. But oh my heart, there's nowhere I'd rather be when you put your arms around me and say I love you, mommy.
Thanks for joining us on this wild ride called parenthood here at Parenting Shrink Wrapped. We hope today's episode gave you some useful tools and maybe even a few laughs to help you navigate the twists and turns of raising teens and kids.
Remember, parenting is a journey, not a destination. And no matter where you are on the road, we're here to help you stay on course. Whether it's monumental meltdowns, teenage turmoil, or just the everyday chaos, you don't have to travel this path alone.
So until next time, keep your seatbelt fastened, your sense of humor intact, and your eyes on the road. We'll be back soon with more compassionate conversations and practical strategies to support you and your family.
Don't forget to subscribe to Parenting Shrink Wrapped wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you've enjoyed today's show, we'd love it if you'd leave us a review and share it with a friend.
If you have suggestions for topics you'd like to see us cover in the future, feel free to send us an email at parentingshrinkwrapped@gmail.com.
Until we meet again, take care and enjoy the ride.